I start? Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 4th. It is now 7:15 p.m. Town Council meeting at Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. John, will you lead us in prayer?
Bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening as your humble servants. We ask that you watch over these proceedings and bless us with your divine guidance and your unparalleled wisdom. Help this council to always engage in meaningful discussion and remind us to be thoughtful and compassionate in our decisions as our choices affect the lives and the well-being of others. Please bless the great town of West Warwick and the good citizens who live in it. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Andrew, this is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Councilman Padula?
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There's a quorum. Development agreement regarding tax stabilization for the rehabilitation and redevelopment of the former United States Post Office building located at 1190 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island, also identified as Assessor's Plat 16, Lot 121, by and between DDM Properties, LLC, the Arctic Village Redevelopment Agency, and the West Warwick Town Council of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move, what is it, a resolution?
Yeah, development agreement resolution.
I'll move it.
I'll second the agreement. The motion.
Discussion. Who wants to start? Fred?
I'd ask Mark to give us an update on the status of it.
Don't hurt yourself, Dan.
Yeah. Council President, members of the council, you will recall that we were before the council a few weeks ago to discuss a development agreement. At that time, the council gave direction to the redevelopment agency to get together with Mr. Cambio and work out the details of the development agreement. We worked back and forth over those several weeks on language. We conferred with our solicitor as well as Mr. Williamson on certain changes in the development agreement, and what you have here before you this evening is the final product. The redevelopment agency did vote on the language that is before you and is forwarding it to you for your consideration and approval.
I had a lot of fun reading this because it was scanned in sideways.
Yeah. Every time
You
you
can't
move.
flip an iPad over because the paper flips that way. So luckily I was able to print it out, but rather interesting. I personally got to read a lot of this agreement, and I thank everybody who worked on it. I know there's some endless hours on this. It's been brought before us a few times now, and it's been about 6 to 8 months in the making. I just want to go over a few quick things that were pointed out to me, and I think speaking to Nick last night, he has some wording that he'd like to see fixed. Nick, did you have that with you?
Actually, not to step in front of Mr. Cambio, but I did distribute just before the meeting. In front of you is a strikeout version of
So
some,
been,
we'll call them Scribner's errors. They're typographical errors that were in the document that Mr. Cambio asked that we provide to you. So there are two documents. One says draft on it, and you'll see the lines on the side where the corrections are. The corrections are in red. And the second document is actually the corrected version. So these two would be the same, except one has strikeout and one is the actual corrected version.
And everything's in red. And the only other thing that is my concern is to make sure that, and I like the agreement, and again, I thank everybody. Just want to make sure, continues to the agreement that all taxes are paid on the property prior to this agreement. So that's my only concerns with it. Page 2, 3.3. 2.3.3.
That's in the agreement.
Yep. But I just want to make sure that they're taken care of before the agreement goes into place. Any other questions? Anybody from Arctic Redevelopment?
The chairman is here, as well as the other members, Mr. Tabak, Mr. Patno, Mr. Marsh, and our attorney, Joe Brennan.
Bob Boy is here too.
Oh,
Mr. Boyer is here. He's incognito with the
Yeah, I
glasses.
know.
Sunglasses, you recognize him. Swifty Lazaro.
He's pulling, I wear my sunglasses at night.
He's lovely wife.
Jim Marsh, Chairman, Arctic Village Redevelopment. So again, the document you have in front of you should be the final. We've worked diligently on this. Everybody's come together. I implored you to please do something, and hopefully tonight we can get this passed and try and get this 2 projects going here in Arctic and try and revitalize some stuff. You know, we've lost some businesses, and some have just moved, so we've kind of had a net of 0 at this point. So we're just going to hope for the best, and I think the document is probably the best that you're going to get at this point. So I thank you all for your consideration on it as well.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments from the council? Any more questions? Any questions from the public? Bert?
Can you explain, what's this gonna do? Sell out the post office, lease it out, or what?
Well, this isn't a, Mark, you want to?
So what this is what we would call a tax stabilization agreement. This is kind of a unique document, and without getting into the details, this is a proposal from the owner of the post office, which is the building next door, to enter into we're going to call it a tax stabilization agreement in exchange for developing the property. So it's not to sell the property, it's actually so Mr. Cambio can come in and rehabilitate the property and put it out to market for a new use. That use has yet to be determined. He'll be marketing the property for anywhere from residential to office to business uses. And part of the agreement is that once once the development is complete, a tax agreement will kick in, which will stabilize the taxes through the years. Then upon sale of the property, Mr. Cambio is to reimburse the community 6% of the sales price plus 1.5% to be distributed to different agencies in the town in exchange for no more payment in taxes on the building for 20 years. If that makes any sense to you. I'm not trying to be as clear as possible. It's a little complicated. Okay.
The town can only make money with this. We can't lose any money, Brett.
Well, it's gonna white out.
So win-win, exactly. There's nothing there,
And it's-
nobody kicking in the doors.
It's start of a,
There's a lot of problems.
well, it's also a start of a test. You know, this could be the beginning. Like you said, we've seen some development going on here in Arctic. Mr. Cambio has pointed out the post office and other properties that he may be interested in developing. So we've got to start somewhere, and this is where we're going to start. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I want to take a roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Angelo?
Hallelujah.
Jay?
Yes.
Yes. John?
Yes.
And I vote yes. There's too many J's up here, like starts with a J. Congratulations and good luck.
Good work, guys. Thanks for everything. Good luck, Nick.
Minutes of
Wait,
the,
wait.
Thank the council for their effort and time, and we appreciate, and this will be the beginning of a renaissance for Arctic.
We hope.
It will,
We starting tomorrow?
yes. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Jason.
You want to go into your next thing?
I move that the minutes of the April 4th, 2017 executive session be kept closed in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A2.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
minutes of the February 28th, 2017 meeting.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Move the minutes seconded. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agendas, license applications, resolved that the consent agenda having been posted All matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
I'll second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The licenses that were just approved was a Bloom Hair Company, Victorian Eye Care, Hunter and Chavy Inc., Bonk, Brothers Remodeling. All kennel licenses have been approved. The circus license, and they've all been approved. Circus will be here Friday night.
It's not tonight?
It might be.
It's here every night.
Correspondence, resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second.
Moving second, any discussion?
Yeah, you want to read these, Dave? What they want us to do, or?
Uh,
I mean, I don't like them, to my opinion.
Well, my question is, there's the town of Charleston's reaching out to cities and towns to support a resolution in support Governor Gina Raimondo's Promise program. Then they're also looking for a resolution relative to regulation on earth removal extraction. Town of Charleston's busy, huh? And the letter from the ACLU. Now, again, if you want to put any of these on the agenda, that's up to the council. I only have them put on here so you can read them, and then you can decide whether or not you want to support them, or do whatever.
I mean, I'm not going to support what I'm reading here. It has no concern of ours. It's above our pay grade. And as far as the president going for illegal immigration, I'm not going to.
That's the ACLU.
Yeah, I'm not. That's their fight, not mine.
Any other council members have any concerns? Would they like to see any of this on the next agenda?
No. I think we have enough going on.
Yeah.
I'll agree with Mr. Licciardi, Councilman
I do
Licciardi.
not.
Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Additions and cancellation of taxes, tax assessor resolved that the attached additions in the amount of $4,701.33 and cancellations in the amount of $496.60 be presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinances is hereby approved. The original list is on file in the office of the tax assessor.
Move the resolution.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance number 2017-11, first reading, an ordinance amending section 56.6 supplemental use regulations 10 of the West Warwick zoning code of ordinances of the town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance for discussion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Al, how are you?
I'm always
You're
good.
looking tan and dapper.
Fantastic. This ordinance, a couple of people inquired as to the background of it, so I thought maybe it'd take a few minutes, especially for the new councilman, and get into the zoning background of it. It deals with setbacks. The zoning code, when it was created, set up setbacks, which are an area from a boundary line. Originally, it was set up so that buildings, the primary building on a piece of property, would not be too close to the boundary line. So they set these things up, setbacks. You can't have a 10 feet from your side boundary, and different setbacks from different zones. As population grew and things got more dense, more things than just the original buildings went into this, keep them out of the setbacks. The tool shed you buy at Home Depot, the swimming pool, you can't have them in a setback. You can't have it too close to your neighbor's boundary. The situation was if you wanted to put if you had a 10-foot setback from a sideline and you wanted to put your tool shed in 8 feet, you had to go to zoning and get a variance. Things continued along that line. A number of years ago, we had a situation, and I don't remember the details on it, other than there was a very large boat that was in a cradle, not a trailer, that was stored right on the boundary line of a piece of property adjacent to the neighbor's driveway. The concern was that this boat stored there, if we got a big storm or something and that boat went over, as I recall, the boat was big enough so it would not only damage a car that might be parked there, it might have hit the house. At that point in time, the council suggested that I draft the original ordinance, and those items that were in the ordinance, the trailers, the boats, and everything else, basically what the council wanted was keep them out of the setback, keep them a distance from the boundary line. So we put that ordinance into effect, and it still enabled somebody who wanted to put their boat or their trailer within the setback could go to zoning and ask permission to put the boat 8 feet instead of 10 feet, or the trailer or the RV. Things got, well, we were having a lot of problems with this, so in 2015, the council tightened it up, and they made it so that it became a prohibited use, so that not even the zoning code, the zoning board could say, it's okay to park your trailer 4 feet from a boundary. It's okay to park your camper 4 feet from a boundary. We said no. They got to be outside the setbacks. This is pretty much the way most communities in the state operate. These things can't be in the setback. The definition of a storage was that if you put one of these objects there for any 31 days in a 120-day period, it was considered storage. So that's the background to it. It started because we had this very large boat on a boundary line and it created a problem. A couple of weeks ago, a month or so ago, Councilman Meshik called me and asked me about it. I gave him the background to it. I prepared the ordinance. He had some questions about it, and his comments that we wanted the council to discuss it. So I prepared the ordinance and submitted it. Because it is a zoning ordinance, prior to coming before you, state law requires that it goes to the planning board for a recommendation. It went to the planning board last evening. The planning board made an unfavorable recommendation to the council. They felt that allowing these 3 items, the camper, the RV, and the travel trailer, to be placed on a boundary line was not a good idea. So having said all of that, being a lawyer that likes to talk, basically all it's saying is we're going to allow people to have their camper, their travel trailer, or their mobile home right up to a boundary line. If the council approves it, that's what you will have. If the council doesn't approve it, all of these items that are listed in there you can still keep them, but you got to have them outside the setback. So if you got a 10-foot setback.
Can you clarify the setback boundaries? I thought it was 10 feet from the neighbor's property and 25 feet, or does it vary?
It varies with district.
Okay.
It depends.
By district?
By district and use. I mean, I didn't read my zoning code.
That's fine, so it varies though.
But an R10 zone and an R6 zone may have a different one. I don't know.
And when
Commercial zones.
When he says R6 and R10, R6 is 6,000 square foot to build a house on.
Okay.
R10 is 10,000 square feet to build a house on.
And a commercial may be different. I don't know. In the zoning code, there is a table of setbacks.
Now, I wasn't on the council, obviously, in 2015, but
No.
David and Angela were. So now the boat seemed to be the big issue. Now, boat isn't an issue, and I did watch the meeting last night. I wasn't able to attend. I did watch it. Boats kept being brought up, but boat isn't part of one of the items we decided when me and Al talked. Was we didn't decide to include
No,
that
the boat was the issue
back then, which is why I
kicked this thing off.
which is why specifically I didn't have you
then
include it.
Once that boat issue came up, and I don't remember who it was that requested I get this, when I got into doing the research to prepare the ordinance that started with a boat, I found out that most of the communities didn't only include the boat.
Yeah.
They went down this type of, I'll call it vehicle or object, so that when I did it, looking at in general, the ordinances throughout the state, this was the common language that was used. So it spread from boat to camper and everything else.
I'm I'm a true believer, Jay. I agree, but I'm gonna give you the pros and cons that I was on that council, and so was David. What transpired for us to tighten up this law. We had more complaints than anything. I believe you own, to square one, you should be able to utilize every square inch of your property because you're paying taxes on it. I would vote for a person to put up a shed right on a property line, you own it. So do they. So if you want to butt it up, I have no problem with that. The problem I have with campers, boats, and we went through it, and it wasn't select enforcement, believe me. The only way that the town finds out or someone enforces it is when one of the neighbors complain. When someone else has to move theirs, they said, how about down the street? Angelo's got one, or how about down the street?
By definition, that is selective enforcement, though.
Well, no, it's not, because you're gonna get a complaint. The town's not going there and looking at it. When you, as a councilman, you're gonna realize, when you go to a complaint, you got two people. You got the complainer and the person they're complaining about. You're gonna make one happy, and you're gonna make
Of
one
course,
really pissed off.
Of course, always.
So, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I agree with that.
With the campers, the reason why I'm against the not having a setback is because these ranches are small. You have a camper, I'm not talking about a $40,000, $50,000 camper, I'm talking about the one that isn't even roadworthy. They register it for $5 or $15, whatever it is. They keep it in the yard. They got people sleeping there.
Well,
they're
that's
partying
different.
in-
That's still in here. You cannot sleep in there. That's in the
Well, yeah,
ordinance.
I know, but how you gonna enforce that?
Well, how are you gonna enforce it now?
Well, we're not, because they know that they need that setback. Now, people wake up in their bedroom, they look at a 12-foot camper, that's all they see, it's right on a property line. Your house is 10 feet away from the property line.
If anything, the people that it's going to be tougher to find the people that are sleeping in the camper that's set further back than's on the road.
I mean, I have my differences. I mean, I think that you own the property, you should be able to do what you want. But if you're making my property worth less than what now you're affecting the neighborhood, you're affecting the...
So is 10 feet difference going to affect the property value? If a camper is 10 feet difference, it's going to affect the property that much?
No, it's more for safety reasons.
It's more for safety on that. Well, I'm not gonna get into everything.
Because that was never
we
brought
did.
up here. I did specifically when I called Al. That was the first thing I said. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't put in for safety reasons, because then I wouldn't have even touched it at all. That was the first thing I asked Al. I wanted to make sure that that wasn't the reason.
Being that close to someone's property and them looking at it all day, I mean, I have a little bit of a problem with that. I have more complaints with the trailers being able to stay there than not being able to stay there. I mean, there's a few that complain, they want to bring their trailers, bring it there, but the majority of the people don't want it.
And they still need to be registered. There's no, I mean,
that doesn't mean anything. You can register at $5, $7. Anybody can register it. I mean, there's no inspection that a trailer's got to go through. It could be whatever it can be, whatever you want to call it. It could have all kinds of, I don't know. I agree with you in some instances, but when I know the complaints that we got, and Dave will tell you, the complaints we got with campers right up to the property line, or boats, or whatever, the people went berserk.
And I heard that when I watched the meeting last night. I mean, I don't think people are going to be moving to West Warwick because they want to for a camper.
I didn't hear that. Yeah.
You said it.
I didn't say that. Felix said it.
Felix said it. Okay.
Chairman.
Sorry.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
He said people are going to want to move to West Warwick because they can put the trailer.
Yeah, which I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know. I'm just
personally, like my property, there's nobody can park next to me. But
me either.
When you get into these smaller neighborhoods, and I go one street over, and driveways were built back then right on top of each other, and so it gets into a hairy situation because somebody wants to park it in their driveway. Obviously, you want to keep the wheels off the grass, keep the dampness out of there, not good for the brakes, so on and so forth. So they want to park it on their driveway, but it's up against their neighbor's property. You know, again, I think personally neighbors work that out, but again, like Angelo says, and I will tell you, like, because I've asked questions to building officials, why'd you go to this house? And, or whoever it may be, housing, and once a complaint is filed, they must act on that complaint. They don't care who makes the complaint. If Angelo made a complaint against me, they're gonna go just because there was a complaint filed. Now, personally, the 10-foot rule, that's like a shed. I mean, I've seen a lot of sheds right on the border, but, you know, some neighbors don't like them next to their property. But, you know, those are neighborly things that you work out. Pools. I've been here in zoning meetings when people start talking about pools, and the neighbors all say, I'm fine with that pool going there, and they still vote it down. And they tell them to buy a smaller pool, which I think is ridiculous, because you own a piece of property, your neighbors are fine with you.
I agree.
You know, that's fine. But again, there's other reasons why. Now, these campers are close to the road. If they're blocking views coming out of your driveway.
But that's
Jay,
a
if I'm
separate
coming
issue.
out of my driveway and I got a camper in my way,
Because,
I can't see.
but I think that could be the case with a fence, with a tree, with anything in somebody's yard, correct?
No, because
So, I mean, we
there's
could
ordinance- there's a fence ordinance that the fence
Right.
can't be over 3 feet, so
Yeah.
many feet from the
It's
street.
gotta cut
On a
down.
corner. I have a cousin who lives on Sear Court. When they built her house, she had no part of it. They
Yeah.
built her house, they put a fence all the way around, 6-foot stockade. She bought the house, she moved in. 2 weeks later, she got a letter from the town saying she has to reduce the fence. And she's like, well, how did I get a CO if I didn't do this fence? She had to take her fence down. You know, there's ordinances against fences, bushes, and again, if there's, I can name a few places I drive around out of this town that I bought of this town. I drive by them, like, I can't get around the trees. It's all for safety reasons. So the 25 feet back was a stipulation. As you're driving down the street, now let's say kids are playing in your neighbor's yard. You're driving down the street normal, 20 miles an hour, 25.
So,
And all of a sudden, you can't see those kids playing because that camper's covering their whole entire front yard, because that's the step back for your house is 25 feet from the road. All of a sudden, these kids are playing in the front yard, and one kid comes coming out, and all of a sudden you're driving. You don't see that kid until the last second because he's already out on the road because the camper's in your way. That's why some of these ordinances come into place. Now, I saw some of the complaints on Facebook. I looked into them. You know, one of them didn't tell the whole truth. It wasn't registered. He's been fined 5 times. He's been told, and never registered it. After 5 years.
That's a separate situation,
I
but
mean,
yes.
yeah. So of course you're going to get your beans busted. If you're not going to listen to the town, and I think our building official and our minimum housing are very fair to the situation. So if you're 21 feet and you're a 4-foot difference, I don't think they're going to bust you home. But if you're up against the road and you're blocking traffic or you're impeding views,
Well, I mean, if you're blocking traffic, it's one thing, but I mean, that's not. This doesn't read if you're blocking traffic.
well, blocking views.
Hey, but this doesn't-
It does say that. That has view.
and then who's gonna determine if it's presentable? If it's not an eyesore?
Who determines that for houses?
Right now,
Minimum housing.
Okay,
But
correct.
with a trailer, it doesn't specify, oh, it's gotta be up to, what code? What code
There's
does a
no
trailer
code.
have? There's no code. A home has a code.
We have
So,
a dump
I don't
truck-
like you, you're selling your house, I park this trailer over there with anything I want.
We have
The signs hanging up.
we have a dump truck behind the bike path that's been there for about, I don't know, at least 5 years. We talked about possible rats. I mean, that thing's covered in trash.
If I might, just from a legal perspective on this, the one area that David has been raising that I have a serious problem with is the front setback. I'm not here to, I'm here to draft and council make the decision. I personally have a problem with setbacks were created for a reason in the zoning codes to keep that space open between neighbors. I won't get into, because it's not my function, the side or the rear setbacks. I do have a problem with the front setback, because as David says, the front setback is something right up to your front yard that can create a problem. We had a situation where the restaurant down in Natick, just before the bridge, wanted to put front seating out, and he wanted to put a fence around it for safety. When we sent somebody down to check it out, it was going to be a traffic hazard because of blocking sight lines. So I can say from a legal point of view, I have a great deal of problem with the front setback.
What was done previously to 2015? You said you could go.
Oh, I couldn't find, I don't remember the date that this ordinance was put in.
But you said you could previously go to zoning and
This one came
make it a
before.
variance, correct?
This one came before the town council because a constituent on New Light Street had a very large boat
Yes.
that was being absolutely nothing done with. It was never put in the water. Personally, when somebody goes camping, that camper leaves the yard once in a while. Or if somebody's actually really using the boat, it leaves usually 4 months, 5 months a year, and might come back. So kind of like your neighbors get a reprieve. All these items like trailers and all that can be moved. They're on wheels. Boats are a little tougher unless they're on a trailer if they get put on supports. But this one here came before us in 2015, this very large boat, and it was on a dead end. It's, you know, it was, but the neighbors didn't like it. Plain and simple. They just did not like the boat there, and it was impeding their property. It looks like it was going to fall over into somebody else's property, and that's where this came from.
Well, previous to
2015.
that point, you could go get a variance, but then you eliminated that,
No,
correct?
because I believe, Al, if I'm not correct. the
From what I
boat-
listened to last night, anyway.
I thought the boat issue, or things in setbacks started way back in 2000.
Started in 06.
Yeah, 2006,
Yes.
2007.
Yeah.
So there's a history to this
There,
ordinance.
there was a history. Back then was when it came up, and that original ordinance, and when it came before the council the first time, there was a serious question of what was meant by storage. The council tabled it, and I came back and I put in the description that storage was on the property for more than 31 days in any 120-day period of time. We were concerned with just what David brought up about, you know, somebody brought his camper in for the weekend. Was that storage? Was 2 weeks storage? So we used that, and the problem continued to grow, where we were having a great deal of difficulty with people coming in for variances and what have you, and it became, for the zoning board, a real tough question about, as Angelo said earlier, well, he's got a boat, why can't I have one? So at that point in time, because the problems that this was creating, the council, and I don't remember who it was, somebody said, we got to tighten this thing up, and I met with Mark Carullo, the town planner, and that's when, in 2015, we decided, okay, this is the ordinance. We're not going to give the zoning board a chance to say this guy can put it 4 feet, this guy can put it on the boundary, but no, you can't. So it became prohibited. You had to keep these items out of your setbacks. And I realize, Jay, I've been handling zoning since 2004, and when you ask me what the setback of any district is, I can't tell you, so I don't expect you to know. But the setbacks are not unreasonable. They're 10, they're 15, you know, they're not unreasonable. So to say to somebody, in my opinion, keep these items 10 feet away from your property's boundary, to me is not a bad thing. And I think if you check statewide, and Mark and I did that, this is pretty, the ordinance of keeping these things out of setbacks is pretty standard around the
What if
state.
what if other vehicles? I mean, there's only certain vehicles here. What if it's another vehicle at the end of
Jay,
the driveway?
I want to be honest. Like, I'm a firm believer, and trust me, as long as your property's respectful and whatever, that you should be able to do whatever you want with your property. You pay taxes. You pay your mortgage. I believe in that, but you also got to take in consideration safety, welfare, and everything.
Of course,
else
and I do.
of the residents of West Warwick. So, as it's being said that, you know, that we want you so far, you know, it's not just because we just want to bust chops and say you got to keep it 25 feet back. There are other, like Coventry has the same type of ordinance, so does Warwick. Now, and unfortunately, some people can't keep their campers in their yards or whatever, and that's why they have these storage areas. There's one on Route 2, there's one on 117, and they fill up very fast. Now, also, if you got a neighbor who understands, you know, that sometimes works for you. But, you know, unfortunately, I've never had, my father's owned a camper most of his life, and the way my property situates, there's nobody near me, so I can put a camper anywhere in my yard and not have an issue. But unfortunately, that doesn't work 1-2 streets over because everybody's on top of each other at that point. So it does have, I mean, trailers. I mean, my neighbor has a trailer that he drives back and forth to work every day. It leaves his yard every single day. So, yeah, he probably won't ever get in trouble because he's not there from 8 to 5 when the building official's here. You know, so
let me ask you too. It says 31 days. Does that mean it can be in the setback area in the 31 days?
No, that's a definition.
Because I didn't know the clarification.
That's a definition of storage.
This also Yeah, because I'll use an example.
So you can leave it
We
in the
have a
setback
place-
area for 31 days?
Yeah, but we have a place over here that we just cleaned up on the side of Jerry's, Mr. Was it Wetstein or Greenstein or something? What's the name of it's the fabric place right there on Factory.
Marshall.
Marshall Industries. For years, he had storage trailers there all over the place, and he was filling up with his orders and whatever else. Well, finally, somebody said, you know what, this is killing the value of my property. They're looking to develop over there. They're looking to do everything. As soon as somebody comes, they see these trailers. For years, since I was a kid, those things have been there. Fred actually had it cleaned up and told them, here's the ordinance since 2015. You can't have these trailers on site or these containers on site for more than 31 days. Of course, now I get the phone call, and I drive by, all the containers are gone. I'm like, looks really good. You know, it looks a lot better. The neighborhood is cleaned up. I couldn't defend the business owner at that point. I said, I agree with the town manager. He did nothing wrong here. I think that personally, and one of his employees was going to run against me and everything else. And I said, well, then so be it. But you know what? There's reasons why you got to put some of these things in place, because people will abuse it. Because here it is, one camper. All of a sudden, somebody buys a camper, a trailer, a boat, and has that all crammed in their yard. What does your yard look like now?
They're pretty expensive items. How many people are
I
going to
can
be
buy a
buying
boat
multiple?
I can buy a camper. Listen, my father sold his camper, driving camper.
Yeah.
56,000 miles on. He sold for 6,500. That's not that much.
Hey, remember Cousin Eddie?
Okay.
Cousin Eddie.
I can buy a boat for under $5,000, and I can buy a trailer at Home Depot for under $1,000.
The comedy's for me, Mr. President.
There are reasons why some of these laws are in place. Trust me, you know, it all depends. And like Al said, it's scattered based upon a yard. If you've got a 6,000 square foot yard, you can't. It's like a bag. You know, you only fit so much in it.
When we talk about safety issues, for 31 days, if somebody has parked it for 2 weeks, it's still a safety concern for 2 weeks that it's there, correct? Am I wrong?
I won't argue that.
Okay, so for 31 days, you're allowed to have it be a safety concern, but after that, you're not.
Council,
I understand.
The 31 days.
I understand, like from your perspective, but I still understand that it doesn't make sense for.
You know, there are times you come up with arbitrary numbers.
No, I understand,
and you know.
And that's
I understand. I just
that's
disagree.
more for the containers. So like you rent a pod.
Yeah.
You put a pod there. Well, some people put pods there for the lifetime because it's cheaper than renting. You don't get taxed on it. You don't do anything. You're paying $80, $30, $60 a month for a storage shed.
Right. So,
You know,
but
that's
it's
to
for
avoid
things
that.
like if you had like water damage in a room in your house, something you had to move everything out. People rent those pods. They might have to put it on the property line, but there's a time limit there. Otherwise, it's considered storage.
And then even with the insurance companies, we had a situation where there was this old banged out boat, and believe me, boats don't, excuse me, I cut my lip shaving tonight, it won't stop bleeding, that's why I'm holding.
I don't have that problem.
I gotta start growing a beard.
Executive session.
Well, yeah, well, what happened is the insurance companies now said, you know, you got a boat, matter of fact, I got a 42-foot boat, Jay, down my yard, in my salvage yard. I'll give it to you for free. So you can put that in your yard. I also have a 34-foot home trailer you can put in your yard for free,
I have enough room for a
all
setback.
inspected and registered. But, I mean, the insurance companies say, I'm not gonna insure your house. Look, you got a fire hazard here. And you can't force the other person to, that's where they have the people complaining to the town. Look, my insurance company said they're penalizing me because my neighbor's got a trailer. It's only 10 feet away from my house. And because when they're on a property line, they're 10 feet away from the setback where they put up their house, and it causes a problem for that neighbor. And that's the only reason why. Believe me, I think you pay for every square inch. You should be able to utilize that. You should be able to use it because you own that all the way to God up in heaven.
I still feel it's a little selective. I know there's certain vehicles you got to put in here, but there's
I
certain,
agree with
there's
you,
certain
but
there's
there's
big trucks
pros
in
and
here that are pretty
cons.
close to the same size that are allowed to be there.
Actually, no. Tow trucks, those trucks.
Anything with dual
18-wheelers,
wheels, forget it.
are not supposed to be anything.
Well, I'm not talking
Believe it or not, anything commercial is not supposed to be in the property for longer than certain days.
Don't go there.
It's a long. I mean, and like I said, I told you guys a few weeks ago when we went through this with a situation in your ward. It's not selective enforcement. It's when somebody complains, they have to act on it.
No, I understand that. It's still somewhat selective enforcement.
Well, you know,
and I'm not saying they should drive. I'm not saying they should drive around to every single house, but it is somewhat selective enforcement.
Only when they complain.
I went through this a couple weeks ago working with Fred. You know, a car that was here since 1926 or whatever it was. the building official put a tag on it, and it's sitting way back. It was in the back of Lamb Motors, and Mr. Lamb decided, you know what, the car's been here since 1925. He sent me a picture of it. I got involved, and I'm like, it's part of, and the building official said, I'll pull the ticket, because he didn't realize this was part of the history of Lamb Motors, 1926, the car was, and he sent me pictures of 1926 till now. Was the car rusted out and all that? Yes, it was, but he ended up.
It looked
getting
worse
another-
when he covered it than when he left it open.
Yeah, and he got a Chrysler company to come in, and they're gonna take it, and they're gonna try to redo it, and they took it out of here. But he didn't want any problems with the town, but again, that was set back 75 feet. It's just an eyesore, and he tagged it. Was it selective enforcement? I could tell you, no, he was the first building official that enforced it. Unfortunately, it's been there since 1920-something.
So what does that say about the previous building inspector since 1926?
Well, it probably looked good in the 50s and 40s.
He was using Bobby's sunglasses.
All right, we'll agree to disagree. I've said all I have to
Be
say.
good to your neighbors.
I'm very good to my neighbors. You know, it's.
She made him mad.
What, are you leaving us tonight?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, John.
So, I feel a little conflicted because I do believe that people have the right to use their property the way they want to use their property within the boundaries of the laws. Where I live, it's pretty much zoned R10, so there's quite a bit of space. Large driveways. In my neighborhood, there aren't many RVs. They're big. The ones that are there are big, but they're not because the yards are larger, they're unassuming to some degree. But in thinking about this all week, and driving here, I was driving down East Greenwich Ave, and I was thinking about this. My brother lives on East Greenwich Ave. Those houses are much closer together. It's a main road. I drove by this particular area where there was a street coming out to East Greenwich Ave, and there wasn't a driveway that far from that street. And I was thinking, if someone was on that side road and they were trying to exit onto East Greenwich Ave, they might not be able to see. And that concerns me a little bit. So, you know, I'm a little bit torn because I understand where Councilman Messier's coming from, and again, thinking people have the right to.
We all do. We all feel that way.
But it could present a safety issue if, and especially in listening to what everybody's saying and watching the planning board last night, there could be safety issues.
One of the things that, you know, and I know we get calls, people just put blanket statements out on Facebook and concerned citizens or whatever. You know, I try not to embarrass any individual on that page, but I'll tell them I'll look into the matter. And what I end up doing, and I worked with that individual with the unregistered one. I'm like, well, wait a minute, you were unregistered, that's the first thing. But I said you were unregistered last year, the year before, and the year before that. You didn't tell anybody on Facebook that you were unregistered. I said, and this was a private message, you know, this was, you got to register it first before we can help you and work things out with you. Or, you know, that's the main concern, you know, and they all should be registered. Trailers, campers, all that good stuff.
If I may, one last thing. A number of the councilmen have talked about the right to use your property. Prior to 1965, there was no zoning. You could do whatever you wanted on your property. And in 1965, we passed the zoning ordinance, and they began coming in throughout the state. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever it is, as times changed, the first zoning ordinance was a pretty liberal thing. And it kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And like I mentioned earlier, the first zoning ordinance was designed, the setbacks were designed for that building. And then as time progressed and there were more people and more density, that's when a swimming pool came in. So the zoning ordinances, each year, not each year, but from the time we had none to today, they have gotten more restrictive on your property use. And one of the things that I, as a zoning attorney, has to caution is, are we taking away a right to the use of the property, which becomes a taking, and then all of a sudden we've denied somebody a property right? So it's a very balancing act that we have to look to the state with its enabling laws and keep our zoning code within the parameters that the state has given us. And all I can tell you is that most of the communities in the state have followed what we have today in West Warwick.
The other thing that's a big problem and a concern too, I know last spring and summer, I got a million calls on landscapers who live next door to their neighbors. They bring in their trailer, which is okay to bring it in 10 feet away from the property, their landscaping trailer, they got it full with grass clippings. You know what that stuff smells like in a day or two. So the neighbors have their windows open, they smell that. Now, how do you justify that? What do you do? So eventually, there's gonna be some kind of ordinance that's gonna come out that landscapers are not gonna be able to bring the grass clippings in their yard. I don't know. I mean, but there's a million complaints in the neighborhoods where they're coming in with their pickup trucks loaded with grass clippings, and the stench at 90-degree weather is terrible. I mean, I understand the landscaper wants to bring his truck into his yard, but you gotta have some consideration about your neighbor too that's gonna smell that. So, I mean, it's just one or the other. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, I mean, there's 30,000 residents in this town. You can't just make 5 happy because they can't park their vehicles in their yard. You're gonna make the majority happy, and along the way, you're gonna make somebody mad at you, and you're gonna make somebody happy. So, it's a terrible position to be in. I don't like being in it, but you have to make a choice sometimes, right from wrong. That's all I have to say on that.
Tim?
A judge once told me that there was no definition to quiet enjoyment of your property. But what he did say was, and Angel just said it, zoning, planning, everything else, when after, things were done in a haphazard way, it's always for the benefit of the many to the detriment of the few, and that's the problem. So you break in, like Al said, before zoning, it was the Wild West. You could do whatever you want. There's a couple of houses.
Some lawyers weren't making enough money back then, 1965.
Oh, they were. Just didn't seem it.
The longer you keep us here, the more money we make, right?
I know, so
I'll just keep talking.
They love arguments.
But the whole point is
Your story, his story, and their bank book. All right.
Well, I'll be quiet then. Thank you. The point is, there's got to be a median line somewhere.
I understand.
And it's just that the people that are approaching you, they're not hitting the line. That's obviously causing some problems within the neighborhood. But the proverbial inch would become a mile. So whatever happens in Ward 3 would effectively happen 4.
And I understand that point of it too, where Ward 3 doesn't reflect the whole. You don't make laws by wards. I understand that.
And the inch that becomes a mile, remember, people will take advantage of that. So that mile now becomes 5 miles. So.
And you're in a smaller building zone in your
Correct.
ward,
It's different. It's different than what Angelo has in 1 and John
Like I
has in
stopped
5.
at
It's different.
10,000.
I understand.
Like a lot of mines are 8 and 10, and very, then when you get up here, like in the village area, that it's R6 and whatever it may be, but majority of yours is 6 and
Yeah, it's different.
8, so it's a
I
little
get it.
different. Some might even be. Is there a 4?
No, 6.
6 is the smallest.
Used to be 4.
All right. Ready for public comment?
Any public comment?
We have a couple of gentlemen here.
Come on up, sir. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is George Brown. I live at 160 Patuxent Terrace. I have an RV. It's 26 feet long. It's been registered every year. I've had it for 4 years. I pay taxes on it every year. And I park within the setback. If I was 20 feet outside the setback, I'd be parking in the street. I never had a problem with it. I keep it covered in the winter. In the summers, I usually take it out every weekend. I don't see a problem with it. I really don't. I've never obstructed any view. It's my quiet enjoyment. It's, somebody might have a boat, somebody might have a bigger camper, or that's their thing, but You can't take away somebody's enjoyment on their own property when they pay taxes and it's registered. I just don't believe you can do that. And, you know, even though I don't fall within that, outside the setback, I think it should be changed for people that own houses and own properties.
So yours is legally parked?
Well, now I had to put it in storage. You know, I received a town notice about the ordinance, and I didn't want to cause any problems, and I got Jay, and we talked about it, and, you know, and I didn't see a problem with it. I never did. I've had it for 4 years. It's kept up. It's clean. I cover it in the
Specifically,
winter.
I saw the, I didn't see the camper there, but I mean, where his was one that fell out of where it didn't.
I never had a
What
problem
happened?
with any neighbors.
It
You
wa-
got cited? What happened?
Correct.
What happened?
You got cited?
I got cited.
Somebody had a complaint?
No, I'm sure. But where his was, it wasn't blocking, it wasn't obstructing the view, it wasn't close to the neighbor's house.
No,
It was a setback violation.
Where was it on your property? Was it in the driveway?
in the front, on the driveway, yeah. I got a circular driveway in the front.
How close is your neighbor's house right there from your driveway? Your neighbor's property? That telephone pole? I'm just looking.
No, on the other side.
You're on the other side?
The circular driveway,
Oh, you got the wrong house. There's no
I've been to
side.
his house, so I can show you.
You just hit the arrow.
It's not the blue one. No, it's the next one over.
The gray house. Your house gray?
the gray house is on the other side, yeah.
Yeah, it's a circular
I
driveway.
don't know, I can give you a
No,
photo.
drive.
Can
Going in
you see the
circles over there. I look like I'm
circular
on-
driveway?
I'm trying to find the blue.
He's shaking his phone. He thinks it's an etch a sketch.
What's your address again?
160.
In the circular driveway, what was it? In the circular driveway, sideways or something?
Yeah, in the front, it's a circular driveway around the, you know, street pole,
It's one of those ones
the light in
that's-
front of the house.
It's a situation. Huh?
Those are tough.
Yeah, especially a circular driveway because now you're actually sideways and probably blocking your house. That's about it.
This must be an old picture. You don't have a circular, you do have a circular driveway, right?
Yeah,
This must be a really old picture then.
Can't be.
Nah, they
They update them every.
Yeah, I'm getting that same picture.
How come up with the same thing as
It could be as old as 3 years old, right?
Up to
That's
three.
it.
Have you always had a circular driveway?
no, I put it in 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
This must be older than that then, this picture.
Can't be, they updated 3 years.
I don't
They
know.
update 'em?
My old house where I lived in Coventry is still the old house, and we moved in 2012, so it's 5 years ago.
Well, sir, do me a favor.
Google should pay West Warwick some money.
Yeah, right.
We wish.
That's not your house.
That's house, that's my house.
That's your house.
But he's got a circular driveway.
There's a circular driveway that goes from here and goes right around.
Okay, but that's the right house.
Yeah.
So Dave, take back the exit sketch I had.
Well, you're like this. Come on, clear off.
Oh, the street views are older than that. The aerial views are every couple of years.
Okay.
That's what it is.
That is the right house.
So do the aerial view. I bet you see the circular driveway.
You see it?
Here's my picture. Look, there's Adam Satch's sign. This is 4 years old.
Yeah, but he got it from not being set far. How far?
My house
Yeah.
hasn't been that color in a long time.
Excuse me?
It was in your driveway, right?
It's in your driveway.
In the driveway,
All right, and it was parked parallel to the street.
parallel to the
Like
street.
like this. So
And why would that be a violation?
by the time I went to his house, it was he had already had it moved. So
That's more than 10 feet on either side, so
This
that
might
should,
not be 25 feet from the front.
Yeah, but it's in his driveway.
it's in
On
his
the front.
driveway. That shouldn't, you're not sticking out in the road, so you shouldn't have been cited
No,
for that.
If I was 20 feet, I'd be out in the street. If you look at that.
I mean, literally, when we first talked, I might not have even officially been. It might have been in that the election purgatory time. So
I don't
and
think-
you had moved it right away, so we didn't even It was that long ago, right? When we talked, it had to be December, right?
Well, you should look at it, because that don't seem like that's,
I did. He had already moved it, and then I spoke.
well, I mean, you could see where he had it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I didn't. Since that point, I've educated myself a little more on the ordinance.
Trust the manager to talk to the housing. Something doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. If you're in your driveway,
Yeah.
that shouldn't have been a violation. If the town approved the
There's
plan
something.
to let him build his driveway,
Right.
he could have 7 pickup trucks there instead of having one Winnebago.
Yeah, because it's the driveway to park his automobiles.
You weren't parked on the grass, you were parked on your driveway.
On my driveway, yeah.
Yeah, something seems a little strange.
There's a circular driveway that goes around the front.
And that may be the part she may not have understood. If it was her or him, it depends who it was, they may not have understood that in your driveway, you only have to set back 10 feet. And not, you know, if it was on your lawn, it would have to be 25 feet.
No, it wasn't on
back.
the lawn.
So,
It's in a driveway.
And how long have
So-
you been in storage? How many months?
I just put it there, it's been 6 weeks now.
I agree. I think that at this point, if you're
It was-
deemed able to put it in your yard,
It was registered every year,
then we should,
What you
inspected
guys just
every
looked
year.
up for.
then we,
Paid
yeah,
taxes.
but we should be
so
able
we
to
can,
give
we
back
can beat
the
on this all
storage
night.
space.
I
I'm
think
in
you're
my
in a different-
70s, and that was my retirement gift.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Let's just direct the town manager to look into it further and go from there. You might be a different, unique situation. Again, if it's on the lawn and it wasn't 25 feet back, that's one thing, but you're in your driveway, it's only has to be 10 feet. And if you're sideways in the driveway, you're
Sideways.
10 feet. You could tell you're about, I mean, you might be 9, but you know what?
We might have to tweak the ordinance to say that, but I don't have a problem with that.
Before we leave, I'll try to get this gentleman's information, and I'll contact, talk to the building office on it. Make sure.
But I will say thank you, even though, because a lot of people don't address it after the building official's been there, so thank you for addressing it immediately.
Make sure name and
Unfortunately,
address on the bottom.
you may have addressed it too quick.
What? Oh, yeah.
So, what are you gonna do with this?
Just leave it the way it is for now.
Yeah.
I take no action on this ordinance until further notice. Have a motion to take no.
Yeah, I'm gonna motion to table it.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to table, second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Keep it off the agenda too, even though we table it, just keep it off the agenda until we want to revisit.
Yeah.
Real quick,
The table passed?
Yeah, yeah,
I want to let him talk on it though.
yeah. Just don't answer. You can't answer.
My name is David, I'm Mandy. I live on Kowalik Drive, 26 Kowalik. And I wanted to defend George, I'll tell you, he's one heck of a guy. He's been one heck of a neighbor to us. And when he says he put something on that driveway, believe me, I'd never seen the tire or anything else go on his lawn over there. He's a very particular person. And we've become very good friends. So,
But we're hoping we can help him out once we figure out the facts of the matters are.
I've had a RV on my property for 17 years that I've been there. And I never had a problem with any of my neighbors until somebody else moved in across the street from me. And
That's what happens.
yeah, that's what happened. And they came after me, tooth them. It was just terrible. That's all. But they finally calmed down. There again, I had plenty of room to put my RV in there. I made an extended driveway over there. I went to,
You went through
zoning.
great lengths and you got everything passed that you needed to.
Yes,
to get.
it did. So that's what I wanted to say. I really can't see, a person owning property and not be able to do what they want with it within reason and within the law.
I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
We all agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My first time here, and I'll tell you.
Welcome.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2017-12, first reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 1 in general, and Article 5, tax on renewable energy of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
I'll second.
Moving second discussion. Hey Al, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
Welcome
Long time
back.
no see.
A couple months ago, I got a call from Christine that we wanted to look into the veterans exemption. And when we looked into the veterans exemption, I found out that the exemption ordinances in the town was a mess. So working with Christine, and thank God working with Christine, because she was incredible in bringing me through this, we took what were, I'll call the exemption ordinances of the town, and basically redid them. We didn't make any structural changes to the ordinances, except put them in some type of an ordinance. The first thing we did was we looked at the order in which the ordinances were put into effect. And what we had was we had an ordinance number 1 that dealt with the elderly. We had ordinance number 2 that dealt with veterans. We had ordinance number 3 that dealt with the blind. We had ordinance number 4 that dealt with the veterans. There was no semblance of order, so we put them in where we can now go and look at what we have in a sensible manner. The next change we made was that a lot of our ordinances did not comply directly with the enabling statutes, so we rephrased our ordinances to comply with the state statute. We did a couple of things, like one of our ordinances referred to the blind, and we brought it up to date, and we now talk about the visually impaired. We then went into the fact that the state enabling laws had a number of enabling laws for exemptions that we didn't have, including stuff that was directly directed right to West Warwick. For example, there is an exemption for the fire station area. We didn't have it in our ordinance. The state had it in the enabling act, so we added those things to it. The next thing we did was, when we were looking at the ordinances, we had no idea where in the state statutes these particular ordinances came from. So we added in each case the state statute that gave it to us. The big change that came about was that when the council would set up an ordinance, for example, the council wanted a $258.40 reduction on elderly residential taxes. Well, when Christine goes to do that, she can't set up a $258.40 deduction. She's got to give an exemption based on the tax assessment. So in my memo to you, I gave you the example that on the, and I'll call it the Class A residential classification, they pay a rate of $25.84 a thousand. A $10,000 exemption will give them the $258.40 reduction that the council wanted all elderly to have. However, when Christine goes to the two-family classification, that rate was $37.27. So if she does what she's supposed to do and give a $10,000 exemption, those people are going to get $372.70 instead of the $258. So we tweaked the statute so that instead of saying $10,000, we said that the exemption is based, the exemption is set on each individual classification. So that when the council says to Christine, we want to give $258.40 to all people over 65 years old, she can set the exemption on the single family at $10,000, and I calculated it out that she would set the exemption on the next one at $9,933.31, but she could set it at, at whatever the rate came out to be. But that's the only major change that we made in the ordinances. The other thing that we did add was the legislature just passed an act that up until now, and I'll simplify by saying on the commercial energy generating things, the wind turbines, the sun you weren't allowed to tax. The state passed an act that says that the Department of Administration is going to set the rate that can be taxed on these commercial ventures. But you're only allowed to do that if you have an ordinance that says you will do it, and you're only allowed to tax what the state says you can tax.
How much do they get out of it?
I don't know, but it's, you're not going to.
They're in for us a sign.
You're not going to balance the budget on what you're going to get from it. And so, again, if you enact that section, Article 5 that I've added to the ordinances, you'll be able to tax them for whatever money you can get. If you don't enact that, you can't tax them. That's pretty much in a nutshell. I can't tell you what a pleasure it was and how great Christine has in helping me out, because I knew nothing about the tax structure.
Are
and
you
any
paying,
question-
are you paying us now for services rendered?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. That's why I'm here, so I can fly back to Florida. But if you got any questions for the.
Charge them, Christine.
If you got any questions
Yeah.
about
Continue, yeah.
That's right.
the taxes, she's the one who knows it all, not me.
Any questions? Glad it cleaned up because it was a mess. We have a lot of ordinances that are a mess right
Oof.
now. And, you know, just because one always contradicts the other because we make changes and whatever else. And next thing you know, we find out 5 years later we have to correct this because of that.
Once the council acts on that, if I may address that issue.
Okay. Christine?
I just wanted to say it was a pleasure to work with Al, and I hope that you consider, if you have any questions, please let me know. This will really make it so it's clear for the taxpayers on where I'm giving exemptions and other things in the taxation
That's what we
ordinance.
want.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bert?
Will the veterans exemption go to the same level that the seniors are getting?
Bert, we did talk about that last year as a council. Right now, budgetary reasons, I don't think we'll be even talking about it this year. We can't afford to give away any more right now. As much as I'd like to go back, last year it was almost $250,000 that we did for the seniors. And trust me, I'd like to do that same thing for the veterans, but right now in this budget session, I don't think we can afford taking $250,000 away from the levy.
Veterans exemption will remain the same?
Remain the same, unless the council sees fit. But right now, $250,000 roughly out of our budget would be very hard to figure out. And we're gonna be going over that next couple of weeks. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, guys and girls.
If I might take a moment with the council for something you just raised, David, about the conflicts in the ordinances. I met with Mary Ann yesterday, and what I have done is I have prepared a list of all ordinances that the council has passed that have not been updated into the code of ordinances, including the resolutions for fees. I've given it to Mary Ann, and she's going to, when the supplement comes out, that our code of ordinances and our fee resolution is up to date as far as we know it. At that point in time, based on what the council instructed me to do a few weeks ago, I will then contact each of the departments with an updated ordinance. And hopefully at that point in time, when each department is told, these are the sections of our code of ordinances that deal with your department, please get back to me and let me know any changes that have to be made. And I even am going to contact the council and say, these are our fees, any changes you want. So hopefully, I can't give you a time frame, but hopefully once the supplement is completed, within a short time after that, the council will be able to reenact a code of ordinances for the town.
Al, while we're on ordinances, I know we brought it up last meeting. I want to bring it up this meeting. I haven't had a chance to speak to you. I'm not sure if you even know about it, but I'm looking at working at an ordinance. I think the council's looking to see an ordinance about taxing places of worship as of January 1st, 2017, meaning any church or place of worship was here prior to January 1, 2017, they'll still be considered nonprofit, whatever it may be, we will not tax. But any places of worship that come into West Warwick as of January 1, 2017, I'd like to put them on the tax roll. Can you look at that ordinance and if it's legal?
Al, before
I'll
you
get
say-
out of the way because I'm
Al?
afraid lightning will come in here,
Al,
but
before you say anything, let's confer. But I basically.
he's looking at me like I'm a nut.
He goes, I'm not getting struck down.
Al, the reason
too young for this.
why,
And I'll tell you why. We are not financially able to sit here and start letting churches move into the town and overwhelm very large tax-paying properties. And so we're looking at possibly taxing those places of worship. But again, anybody who was a place of worship prior to January 1, 2017, we're not looking to do anything with.
I will review it and report back. I will not comment at this time.
He's gonna say the rosary first.
Al, give me a call, we'll talk.
Yeah. I will look into it.
Kendra, now make sure it's not churches that already exist.
Yes, I don't need all the churches in my ward calling me tomorrow.
Oh, me either. Wow.
Can
I got more than you.
Bingo.
Can I give a word of caution? Don't be too optimistic,
Well,
okay?
Well, maybe there would be a fee from zoning and planning that would succumb to taxes.
20 years worth of fees. Let's figure that out. All right.
Discussion action, vehicle repair, West Warwick Housing Adjacent Community, sponsored by Council President Goslin.
Come on up, Dave.
What is this?
This was brought to me by the town manager and Dave Lombari. They're looking at doing repairs for the West Warwick Housing and charging them down at the shop.
They've been asked by West Warwick Housing if they could do it for
And also, which
West Greenwich.
West Greenwich is looking for us to maintain their cars with the fee.
Buyout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well,
go ahead.
First of all, I received a call from the West Warwick Housing Authority. They have 2 vehicles. And they would like us to repair the vehicles for them. We would charge them labor, and we would set up an account with Napa or a couple other parts stores where they would get billed directly for the parts that we get for their cars. So the only thing we're gonna do is collect an hourly, hopefully prevailing wage from that entity to pay for the labor. They got 2 vehicles.
Yeah, but what are we going into, the automobile business now?
No, it was just something we were asked. I brought it to Fred, and Fred says, let's bring it to the council, and let's ask and see what you want to do. Okay, and then the second one, I was approached by the Chief Ramsey up in West Greenwich. He's looking for somebody that knows police cars, which we have our guys. Our guys are trained on all the Ford vehicles and stuff like that. And he would like us to repair their vehicles. Same thing, he'd have his own account set up, all his parts and everything would charge to him, and we would just charge him by the hour, and West Greenwich would pay us by the hour to fix their vehicles. That money would in turn go into the
General fund?
either the general fund or back towards payroll or wherever John sees.
I just have a
Somewhere
little,
to put stuff.
problem with that. I mean, I know, being in somewhat the automobile business and years ago did repairs and body work and everything that we don't no longer do. I think this hurts 2 people. We're only gonna make a few bucks on this. I think it's gonna be more hassle than what it's worth. And we are taking away from businesses in town that are licensed and pay taxes to do these repairs. So I think there's enough qualified mechanics in West Greenwich to do the police work on their vehicles, but that's their prerogative who they want to give it to, and which should go out to bid anyway. And I think our housing authority should be looking at businesses in town that pay taxes in town to do the repairs on their trucks. My opinion. I don't think that we should be in the automobile repair business. I think we have all we can do to handle our own equipment, and it's not like we're gonna make $200,000, $300,000 a year where it's gonna make a difference on the budget.
No.
I think we're talking, maybe $10,000, $15,000 in repairs, and that'll be pushing it. And then again, we will be doing motor jobs, transmission jobs. I don't think we should, that's my opinion, I don't think we should be in that business. I think we leave that to the businesses that pay taxes in the community and are licensed to do that work, my opinion.
I just had two questions. One, did he give you any inclination that the town council in West Greenwich was going to approve it, or the town manager was going to approve it?
No,
All right,
he just made the suggestion, he asked if we'd be interested.
Right.
Like I said, it doesn't matter to me either way.
Right.
I brought it to Fred, Fred says, let's bring it to the council and let them discuss it.
The second-
If you don't wanna do it, that's perfectly
No,
fine.
the second issue would just be a question of working on West Greenwich police cruisers versus West Warwick police cruisers, or any other automotive work. The issue of overtime, is there gonna be overtime to do West Greenwich's stuff, but that they be responsible for?
Any labor that was on their vehicles would be charged to them,
All right.
you know, but like I said, it
The
doesn't
only-
make any difference
The
to
only
me
thing I'd
either way.
say, Fred, is that
It's
we'd
whatever
have
you guys wanna
to
do.
probably check with the interlocal trust
I was
just
gonna
on the
say
issue
that.
of insurance.
Right.
But, I mean,
I don't even think it
And
should
how
go
will
that
it,
far.
how will it tax our mechanics? I mean, do they have a lot of extra time?
No, we don't have a lot of extra time, but we would schedule it in just like any other job.
And they would get a prevailing wage of some type, something similar
No,
to?
they get
Not
their normal
they.
wage.
No, they get their normal
We-
pay.
No, I don't mean
Some-
the actual mechanic, I mean what we would charge.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, my issue would be with taking on some other town's work on our time.
And if
And
they
then
get
what
hurt,
happens when we need something done on our time for our vehicles,
and we already,
and we're paying overtime because it has to get done?
yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
there's too many
I
ifs.
personally would like to avoid it.
Totally up to
Nothing
you.
against West Greenwich, but,
No, none at
you
all.
know, I think we have our own issues to take care of.
How do you
There
feel
are
about the
many.
housing authority?
It's two vehicles.
Well, I wouldn't have an issue with that, with the simple reason they're in-house. They're West Warwick. But again, if that takes away from our guys doing our stuff on our time, and it leads to overtime, and then we can't get our vehicles done, then, I mean, that's the other issue you have to weigh as well.
I just think we're taking businesses away from whoever's doing them repairs now, and which should be a West Warwick facility. I don't know who does their repairs. It should be a West Warwick facility that pay taxes in this town and have a business in this town. And I think we'd be taking business away from them no matter what. If it's 5,000, 50,000, whatever. I'm more against an in-house coming to us than West Greenwich, because
Can you find out who services their vehicles now?
They don't have anybody. You're talking about the housing authority?
Yeah, who do they send
They
it
don't
to?
have anybody.
Who
So
they
that's
have?
what they had some problems in the wintertime, in the middle of the night when the truck broke down with the sander and the plow, and it sat there for like 2 days before they could even get anybody to even
So who
look at
fixed it eventually? Somebody had
Well,
to.
they got a contract, they
But
gotta have a
They
contract to
didn't have a
fix it.
contract with anybody.
Okay.
Well, they should have.
That's why
Probably
they asked,
nobody
you know.
select them, you know?
That's their problem. I mean, they should take bids.
Is it a one-time thing they're asking for? Because obviously cars break down all the time.
they're
This
looking
can't
for
be a
No, it'd
recurring
be-
thing.
They would just.
That
they
means in
want
a
us to do it
snowstorm, if
forever.
they're plowing and their truck breaks down, and we got 15 trucks down, we gotta go over there and take care of their vehicles also. I mean, I don't think, huh?
15 truck, we only got 13,
I'm
easy.
saying, I'm using numbers, Dave, maybe 5.
No, I-
Would we have to guarantee a certain time to them?
no, it would just be a
Because like if
scheduled
there was a
job. I mean,
snowstorm and we needed to put time into our vehicles,
Well, I let guys are there around the clock in the snowstorm anyway, so I mean, they're in and out. I mean, the truck would come in, if ours went down, of course ours would get priority.
what are your thoughts, Fred?
I agree with a lot of the concerns, particularly a larger fleet with like a West Greenwich situation where they have multiple vehicles. I'd be open to giving a trial on the housing authority. It is just 2 vehicles. I don't think it would overly tax the group, and if they're not working with anybody in particular now,
You said a plow.
And-
What
and-
are the 2 vehicles?
they do support residents in town.
They got
So
a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, and they've got another one with a sander on it.
do it as a trial and have them report back, in a year and say what.
They have a
what
director's
came
car
in.
too, don't they?
Yeah, that they bought, they shouldn't have.
No, she said 2 vehicles. She said one was a sander and one was a plow truck. So
Right,
that's
well,
what it- so-
I know they have a director's car also.
I don't know, I think they're gonna give that up.
Well, maybe they are, but
I
I
mean,
don't know.
like I said, it doesn't make any difference to me. But we brought it to you because it was offered, and I
Way
told
to
them
sell, way
we'd
to
bring
sell
up.
it, Dave.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any difference, really. I mean, it's just another job. You know what I mean? To me, it's just,
I mean,
Why can't we put them guys on the sidewalks to do sidewalks? I mean, you know, you got that much time. I mean, you want to work on cars. I mean, you know, we can't find two guys there. No pun intended, Dave. But I mean, now we're going to do work for an authority and take business away from a town person. I don't go for it at all. I wasn't going to say it, but I had to.
yeah.
I knew it was gonna come from you.
Ken was laughing.
so,
I couldn't resist.
Well, I was
Ken.
waiting. I was gonna say it. I'm like, I'll let him do it.
You knew I had to say
so
it.
Angelo is against the housing authority
Yes.
vehicles. Jay, what do you feel about the housing?
I'm against any vehicle coming in but our own.
I say to do it on a trial run. That's my opinion. I don't think, I say no to West Greenwich.
Jay?
I agree with Jay. I noted West Greenwich, but I would agree for a trial run of a year or so.
Right now, we do also maintain
Senior center.
senior centers vehicles also, right, when needed? I mean, John?
I would be okay with the housing authority. I'd also be okay with a trial period, as long as it doesn't tax the mechanics.
Yeah, and as long as it doesn't
when we need them, they will be
snowstorms, yeah.
available.
yeah, it's not. You're only talking 2 vehicles.
All right, there you go. Here's your answer.
How do you feel about
No to
it?
West Greenwich?
How do you feel about it?
I don't have a problem with it. On trial basis, and if it's,
Yeah,
it
but we're
becomes,
taking money from a mechanic.
we don't know where they're taking it from. It could be in Coventry. If it's in Coventry, are you more for it?
No. You know me, I'm a stickler with doing business in town.
I agree with you, but
We
again,
can't force them to, though.
we can't force them. They can go to West Greenwich.
Well, I mean, we pay their salaries, so they pay their salaries.
We
They should
pay
be-
the federal government their salaries, and
Yeah,
the federal
they
government
should-
gives them their
Well,
salary.
they should be supporting the businesses in town.
I agree with you 100%, Angela. We should all be supporting the businesses in town, which we do, but we have no authority in telling them where to get it serviced. And if they're going to Warwick, you know, then what can we say? Why, you know, that's why I said find out where they're getting the service. And right now, there's nobody servicing them, so why not help them out and make a little money and, you know, go towards the mechanic salaries, and hopefully it covers them.
I
mean, think about it,
well,
you know,
got
you
the
s-
votes, but I still think we're gonna be taking
If there's
away
no
from
work in the
ourselves.
garage, what are they doing? If there's no work in the garage, what are they doing?
Well, there should,
There's downtime. If there's downtime, then let's occupy them and let them work. That's my opinion. I mean, let's occupy them.
it's already done, but just my feeling.
All right. What's next?
Recycling and trash bins, sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico.
This was my fault.
This is Dave's fault, for the record.
Not all of it, just half.
No, just half. So a few weeks back, I had an email forwarded to me by Nicole Knott over at DPW. Basically, one of my constituents, who's in the military, was, I think he was going to Alaska, and he had concerns regarding putting things in order for his family. And he has a large family. He has a family of 6 kids, and they're young, they're little. And one of the things that he requested was an additional trash bin, an additional recycling bin. So I was not part of the council, but I was certainly present last year when the council said they wanted to charge $75 for these bins. But, you know, it was handed to me. I went to David with it and asked, you know, what his opinion was. He's not as generous as me. His
was
opinion
half
was the recycling bins, you know, there's a profit being made there, so we would probably give that before giving away the trash bin. But ultimately, I decided to give them both bins, and I guess that prompted David, DPW, to, because he doesn't like to give anything away. I'm only kidding. It prompted him to go to Fred, and Fred came back to me, and it basically brought us to this point where, in my opinion, it was a special circumstance, so I allowed for it. But ultimately, I think what we need to do, and this was our discussion, is to define what makes a special circumstance, and whether or not we either discount something or we give something to someone.
Well, and I don't want to cut you off there. When we had this discussion as a council, we also said give the discretion to DPW, meaning certain scenarios, and Nicole stood up here and said, you know, if you got a house with just you and I living in it, and
Why
we're
you and John living together?
We
Just
pay our
saying.
taxes.
We pay our taxes.
I'll leave that one alone.
And we could do whatever we want in our house.
That's right.
And legal.
I'm blushing.
Sorry.
But,
See what happens
if
after
you and I
8:30?
are asking for 4 bins and we're just blowing through garbage and there's no,
What's going on at this house?
there's no need for all the trash, then Nicole said she would go to the house and deal with the individuals and talk about how recycling and how, you know, ways of working with them to get this to work for them. Now, when we run into 6, 8, 10, thank you, Jay, 6, 8, 10 people in a household, and, you know, I ran into it in my ward, off Curson Street. There's 5 kids, 2 adults, 7 kids, you know, 7 people in a household, 2 garbage cans, a recycle bin and a garbage can was unfeasible. I said, I'm willing to give you a free recycle bin because I would like to see you recycle more. And they're very high into recycling. But if you need an extra trash bin, I believe you should pay for that because there is a tonnage cost and everything else towards that. So that's why I was against it. But I personally think that should be a conversation between the councilman and the DPW, and, you know, and going based upon size of homes. You know, like I said, my mother has the same situation in Coventry. It's just her in the house. She takes her bin out once a month. She doesn't, and it's lucky if it's half full at that point. You know, so it all depends on the situation of the household. And I understand what that gentleman was doing. He wanted to put all the stuff in order, but I know in my neck of the woods, in my neighborhood, if anybody's overflowing that week, we try to help each other out and throw it in their bin, or, you know, we work with each other.
I've had a constituent or 2 for recycling specifically. I think I've had 2 where for recycling, I feel like in the end, we're gonna make money rather than have them just toss it in the garbage bin instead.
And again, I agree. I mean, if I've done, honestly, 5 times more the recycling than I ever had since
Yeah,
got
we
the
all
new
did.
bins. I mean, I fill my bin up every 2 weeks. It's to the top usually. Where before I had that little bin. Once that was full, everything was going in the trash because I didn't want to overflow.
Yeah, and we did the math when I was there with Nicole one day. I think it's like, what is it, 5 times the size, Dave? Yeah, 5
But
times the
it
size of those
just-
old bins.
Just one other concern, Dave. I mean, Dave's gonna get all kinds of requests now that they're doing more garbage, they want other bins. I mean, you do it for one.
Well, that's why we have to define it. We have
You
to
have
have something
to-
solid, you know?
You have to, yeah, but what's to substantiate? You got 6 kids, but my kid, I got 2 kids, they eat like 8. I got 1 kid, he eats like 6, so I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying, you know that we're gonna get that. Well, you gave to him,
Sure.
how come I can't
Right,
get it?
and that is a concern.
And
That's definitely a concern.
that's my only concern, because can we
That's what we said.
eat that
You know,
$125 on each
I
one?
purchased an extra bin because I have a large family. I have 6, you know, but my circumstances are different. I could afford the bin. So, you know, this is one of the reasons why I said give them the bin, because I thought it was an extenuating circumstance.
When we first started this new one-arm bandit policy with the new bins and all that stuff, we had some long discussions over here with the old council.
Hours.
And it came down to the end where they agreed that if someone needed an extra recycling bin, we would give them an extra recycling bin, because we're trying to promote recycling. If they had too much trash, they'd have to buy the $75 bin for the second one, okay? But Nicole would go out to the house and go through the trash with them and actually separate the trash with the property owner,
Right.
and see how much they could take out of the trash that was actually recyclable. You know, so I mean, we need to promote the recycling, not the trash.
I agree.
Tipping fees are going up this year, and they're going to go up again in another 2 years. And you know, just giving away trash bins.
Do
is
the
not gonna-
recycling bins cost us money?
Yeah.
I know we make money.
$75.
They do.
Yeah, they
The
all
big
do. They all do.
90-gallon bins are $75.
But that, you're making, you're
You're saving on the tipping fees.
you're making people recycle more because they're doing it, and it's to our benefit. That I can see. Don't discourage people from recycling. Give them the extra bin, and that's what we discussed,
Yep.
lengthy discussions. And then with the trash, we were figuring, that costs us money, they're gonna use more, they're gonna put more in the trash than they do
Someone needs a bin.
No, it must be the river. Somebody asking for 2 bins. I think the river's coming up. That's the call. Oh, God.
How do you define it, though? I think that is difficult.
I know.
I mean, I kind of like the way I feel like it's working now, where on special request, I don't think there's going to be an overrun of people asking for extra bins. I kind of like the way we're doing it now.
No, we don't get a,
Not too many.
no, I think,
Have you got any?
second bins, we probably maybe sold
I mean, I got two. I think I got two. One
maybe
was
20
one was
since the program's
So
been
do you
in
think
effect.
if we put something in place where, you know, if someone requested it, we would ask or we would tell them that someone from DPW will come out and actually,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah, tell
give
them
you a
you'll-
little tutorial on
So
on
what I
trash?
I probably misguided you
Recycling.
there, John, because I know you and I were talking about it, and you know, being a serviceman that was going in, taking off, leaving his family here, you know, I did suggest you know maybe giving him a recycle bin. What I would suggest from here on out is any councilman who gets this phone call, reach out to Nicole, let your constituent know, hey, do you mind? We're gonna schedule an appointment with you and Nicole, and you guys can go over it. And if we deem that you need another recycle bin, you know, that's great. We'll help you out with that. But if you need another trash bin, we'll probably have to address it at $75.
Dave has to come to your house for the trash bin, so they'll be like, all right, we're all set with the recycling.
I will tell
That's
you,
right.
anybody goes and buys one. I mean, anybody who had to buy garbage cans prior to
Oh my
this.
God, this is so much better.
I mean, they're $20, $18 at Home Depot. You might get the $7 one, but guess what? You're buying a new one next week because it's run over a crack.
And you know how many times I would have animals in my garbage before in the past, in the old garbage bin
And
2
just
years ago now.
let your residents know, the constituents know that we're not making a dime on these bins. It's $75. It's $75. It's what we're paying
Yeah,
for.
and don't forget, we do the warranty on the bins, right? And you pay $75 one time, you got 90 gallons worth of trash for the rest of your life.
Are the smaller bins less money?
Yeah, a little bit. They're about, they think they go down like $15 a size.
But we still charge.
So what about, this is another idea, or just to put out there, it could be simple economics, where that person is saying, I can't afford to give, I need the bin, but I can't afford to pay $75. I mean, is there a way that we can break up the payment, or, you know, give them some type of,
Yeah, we can bill the councilman.
We just don't want to pay.
Well, I think every circumstance is different. If somebody's looking to get it, and you, like you're saying, if you want to, it's $75, so that could be a lot to somebody at certain times. You know, I wouldn't have an issue splitting it up.
well, that's what I'm
You know,
saying.
20, 20,
can we give
20,
them
15,
an extension
sign
of
a
time?
contract.
Break it up?
Trying to track that is
I
not
know,
a
now
issue.
you need
Right.
more
Well,
labor.
that's, you know, that's why I'm putting it out there. If we
He'll tell me
can't
he
do it, we
needs
can't
to
do that.
Can you give me an estimate? We've had it's about what, like a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half.
We've
We've
sold
had
35 bins.
we've sold, so you know, 35
We
total.
just-
Well,
how many you
about
said?
20, I think it was.
Total. That's just recycle.
No, that's, the recycling, we can, you can have an extra recycling if you can prove that you're gonna use it.
Gotcha. But we've
Right.
sold
But
28.
Roughly about 20 bins.
I mean, if
don't
you're
think
going to
it's
use
much
the
more
bin
than
for
that.
a party that you're going to have twice a year, then no, you have to buy it. But if
Right.
you're going to consistently use that bin every 2 weeks,
What about for recycling? Do we know the number of those that we've given out?
How many do you think we gave out, the recycling bins? Second bins, not really that many though, right? Maybe 35, 40 maybe?
Going out,
You know?
8, 9 cents, like 8 or 9 sets a week.
Yeah, no, that was the houses that had them, that were legitimate, we needed them. As far as,
how many extra have you
multiple
sold
houses for
after
extras.
occupying everybody with one?
Yeah.
How many more after that
I
did you?
would say it was more than 20.
But still not that many
and
over
how
the course
much
of a
is
year
it?
and a half. So I
I'm
don't.
talking 10,000 homes.
Not really.
How about
And
the smaller
like you were
bins? Do we
saying about a
still-
party or something like that, if you're gonna have a cookout at your house and you need an extra bin, you can come down to the garage, and if we have a used one, we'll let you borrow a used one, you put a
You pay a
deposit on
deposit,
it.
correct? Yeah.
You use it, you bring it back clean, and we'll give you your deposit back. So it's not like, you know, you have to buy it for one event
So if
a
you're having a
year.
party, somebody could do that. They could like if you had a keg, you spend your $100 for your keg, $75 for your garbage bin,
Fill it up with ice and you're all
and
set.
you're good.
There you go.
Dave, how about the smaller bins? I know at one point some people were requesting smaller bins. Do we
The small
still
bins
have
are all-
those?
are all gone.
They're gone. Okay.
If somebody needs more, they probably want the big one anyway.
I was just
think,
thinking.
yeah.
I mean, you know, maybe it's half the price, and maybe that's all they need.
It's not half the price.
No.
No.
I got to
It's
drag
only
mine
like
up 600 feet, so
Okay.
I don't want to hear it.
So, I mean, if you're getting a small bin, and
Yeah,
then
you
you're
don't
gonna
need
call
it.
up and say, oh, I need another one.
Yeah, no.
You should have kept the big one at the
Right,
beginning.
right.
Right.
Yeah? So, anyway, that's what it is.
you, Dave.
So what did we decide? I'm confused.
Leave it alone.
So
Let DPW
let DPW
deal with it.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Reports?
town manager report.
Just real quickly, Council Vice President D'Amico, myself, I think Councilman Messier was also going to attend, but he was last minute unavailable. We met with Eric Weiner, who does the food trucks. He did the food trucks for our event in the fall. And we met with the purpose of talking about ways that we can amend our permitting ordinances to make it more food truck friendly, because I think we talked about after that event, it was very successful and people really liked them, that we might be able to utilize them in ways for other events and maybe create special events just for that, maybe at the Civic Center, things like that. Putting controls in there, they can't be within 200 feet of an active restaurant or something like that.
Well, currently the ordinance. This was when I talked to him. The ordinance said 1,000 feet of
Right.
like a similar business. So
Right.
obviously you couldn't have a wiener truck outside of Ferrucci's.
Right.
But so.
Yes, but so just to let the council know, we are looking at what some of the other communities are doing that are successfully having these food truck events, and really they draw a lot of people, and they don't just limit themselves to the food truck. They go around and do other things too in town. So it's an opportunity to at least try something out, but to make it work, we're going to have to make our ordinances and our fees more friendly, so that we can at least maybe even on a trial basis come up with a policy that works.
Well, with that being said, if it's events, it's one thing, but I have an event that I'm very close to that always tries to find a spot in West Warwick. I actually directed him to Angelo one day. He wants to be here 365 days a year. That fee should not change.
No.
And he said to me the fee's not that bad.
No.
No, not if you're every day, but if you're somebody that comes in like 2 or 3 times a year for events, that maybe there's a way that we can make it.
Because I believe Eric said
easier
that our
for them.
fees, yearly fees, were a little more than some of the neighboring cities, like Warwick was a little less. And
Well, because we always wanted to take care of people in-house first.
of course,
You know?
No, absolutely.
You got to remember what happened here. Before I was on the council, you had these weekend flower shops set up here
Right.
and wipe out our flower businesses.
That was paying taxes all
that were
year
paying
and
taxes.
licenses.
Yep.
They would set up next to Polyclean at $5
All over the
for
place.
mums, and then the poor guy who's been here 365 days a year. So
Yeah.
that's why that went into place. And,
Yeah, we tripled the
1,000
fees.
feet, because the last thing you need is, we used to have, unfortunately, I don't think we have any more flower places in West Warwick. Kiku's no longer, is Kiku down there anymore?
And we did talk about this. This is
but-
important. We don't want to conflict
Correct.
with existing businesses, but these trucks, especially over the last few years, have become quite the draw.
Yeah.
They bring people in. They bring people together. They might actually bring business to the surrounding businesses, depending on what they might be. Maybe not
and I think a
necessarily
lot of
food
I think a
truck.
lot of them are like different sorts of businesses as opposed
Yeah.
to anything we have. I mean, you saw that everybody here was at the community event. All those trucks were things that are not really the frisky fries.
Why
and-
does Haven Brothers taste so different? So
Yeah, I think it's a different kind of thing. I
Oh.
think some people want to go to.
I don't know how I ever ate that 2 o'clock in the morning.
I'm still trying to figure out how I ate it.
Wow. I just think it's a different kind of thing. Somebody wants to go sit down and eat at Boneheads. It's different than somebody that wants to quickly grab something out of a truck.
Exactly.
You know?
want to be waited on. You want to sit down, versus the person who just wants to grab the quick meal on the go.
$10 fine.
I think it benefits the town even beyond that. Like, we talk a lot about building community, and we like this event that we're having in October. I mean, we want more events like that when we have even like the music.
Just come up with something.
Yeah, we're going to put something together.
It's not a problem. We're all open to that.
If they're here for our event, they're doing an event up at the Civic Center,
Right.
or if they're doing something here in Arctic, I'm all for it. I mean, it's a one day thing. They're not in here. What I'm against, and I've been very adamant about, are like these lemonade trucks or slushy trucks that come to our ball fields all the time, park there, and they're not pulling a permit.
Right.
But yet here they are taking money away from the concession stands for the local leagues, and then they're just sitting down there. When you ask them for their permit or license, they get behind the car, start up, and leave because they don't want to be bothered. But if they're here all the time, that's one thing. If it's one-time events, I mean, that French fry guy, he had a mile long.
Well, but I do think like they have an event coming up. One of the reasons he brought it up, they have an event coming up at the Civic Center. I don't know exactly which event it was, And he was either going to get a $25 permit, which is the one-time fee, or he was like, is it worth it for my drivers to get the yearly permit to come up for several
'cause
different events?
Yeah, it's just some of the events that are booking at the Civic Center are asking, is there a way to have food part of it?
What is the yearly event? I mean, yearly.
300 right now,
300.
correct?
Yeah.
So he'd make that money in one day. I mean, you know, it's what
Depends, really depends.
It all depends, like, but
Warwick,
again,
how much does Warwick charge? Do you know?
They give, I take a
No, it's
lot.
less. No, it's less. The
No,
le-
they are,
it's
they're
less.
And that
Yeah, I
was
think
the
I
point,
don't know.
you know, we're not as welcoming as other cities
But
and
we'll
towns.
we'll
I know
put
the
something
other cities
together.
and towns do.
We'll
Yeah,
provide that to
we
you.
can-
Okay, and that's all I have.
Fred, while you're on manager's report, I just got a phone call. The reservoir is up to 106% of its
They always
capacity.
are. Yeah,
Now, if they let that go,
they can't. They don't have the controls to do it. That's why they don't.
they're
do
gonna
it right
flood
now.
everybody.
No, they won't let it go. The problem is that when it's at 106,
They take the boards out.
when it's at 106% capacity, any water that hits it just runs off. It's like it's like a
There we
17
go.
square mile parking lot up there right now. That's the issue. I've
Can't
just
call Situate right now, they haven't started their town meeting yet, they're still 45 minutes behind, it's so busy up there.
yeah. So it's
I'll be quiet on that one.
They're
now
very
we're
hectic right now.
actually just so the council knows. You know, I brought this up to the state on several occasions that we need Providence Water to be more engaged in flood control. They don't think it's their business.
Fred,
but it's our business.
Even before you, we met at the speaker's office.
Yeah.
We met with the governors. We went up with many, many businesses and people, and the problems is when Providence shuts their barriers, their hurricane barriers, they flood Warwick, Cranston, and West Warwick. They could let it go another 2 feet, but no, they take the shot, they do it, and there's no control. The reservoir, they let it go, build up, instead of letting, and they still let it, they do let it out.
Yeah.
And they wait, and then all of a sudden, boom, they bang everybody out.
Yeah.
And you're banging out, our government don't take care of us like they did Haiti. They rebuilt their whole thing on the floods, or New Orleans. Little Rhode Island gets nothing, and the poor businesses suffer by it. So, I don't have, don't even get me on a roll.
Just so you know
with that.
as a result, though, right now, URI with DEM is involved in this project. They're actually doing a full analysis on the reservoir specific to flooding downstream, and that they've never done that before. And they're working with National Weather Service and a few other agencies to put all the data together. And at the end of this, it'll be, they've already, I've been to a few meetings already, and the data is very consistent, showing that they're causing excessive flooding downstream because the fact that they're not able to currently manage it properly. The boards are one thing, but they really need control devices. So what we're looking at is saying, FEMA, instead of spending millions after the flood, why not we spend a couple million and put in the flood control and then make them do that? So that's what the study's about, and hopefully
Go talk to that wall right there.
yeah, well, it's something anyway.
I'm not an engineer, but if you take a bottle and flip it over, that's what happens, it floods, and that's what's happening here, is you're letting everything out from upstream.
Absolutely.
And it's coming down, and it bottlenecks. So you're gonna have those issues, and unfortunately, we have to figure out how to stop it. Fred, Chief Barish left. Are we still scheduled for Thursday for a meeting with Coventry at the Harris Fire Station?
I believe he was scheduling it for Thursday. Let me verify.
We have a meeting Thursday.
Not this Thursday. No, this is Thursday morning, Don.
Oh.
Trying to take a look at that. Just to give you a head, I guess there was an article in today's Times. I didn't get a chance to read it, but it's been advertised that West Warwick and a few other places are interested in the building. That's actually a bidding process. It's not an actual going up for sale. It's sealed bids, I guess. So we have to look. I know I've asked for Christine, myself, you, the building official, and Chief Barris to be there. So
I guess it needs a lot of work.
that's what I want to take a look at. That's why I want the building official there. And
I'm
see,
against
see
that
what it's-
totally.
Do we have to pay taxes in Coventry if we purchase that?
Well, we have to look at that because I don't know if they pay taxes.
The only thing,
We're gonna annex it, bring it into West Warwick, change the property line.
You're right.
That's something we can look at.
Could we?
Yeah, you can,
Because
absolutely.
it's right there. It's right on the border.
One wall is ours. One
Is it?
wall is in the West Warwick. I just
How?
don't know if we ever charge them
Tower is in
taxes.
West Warwick. I don't think we ever charge them taxes.
Well, let's get the taxes, maybe we get the building for nothing.
But again, I just wanna point out, you know, and Angel, I know you're against it, but if we get a good deal on it, our building that's on the corner of Wakefield Street then can go fully into the tax roll also. Where right now, our building there doesn't make any taxes. See what I'm saying? And we don't pay any taxes down, we don't make any taxes down there, so. Again, I just wanna look at it, again, it's in the preliminary stage, we have till the 27th to decide or put the bid in. You know, who knows if we can get it for cheap. Coventry, from what I'm being told from the individuals that have called me, they'd like to see it stay a fire station. I know other people right next door are looking at it. Bill's Pizza, I don't know what he's looking to do over there, but he's looking at it. So, you know, let's just take a look at it and see what our options are at this point.
Okay.
I want to bring up, just to remind everybody, we got the Earth Day cleanup coming up on Saturday at 8:30. You can meet right here at the post too, anybody that wants to come out and help. If you want to contact Barbara Tabak, the information's on Facebook, or you can literally just show up here at 8:30 to 12. So hopefully I see a lot of you out there this Saturday, if it doesn't rain. We do have a rain date. Hopefully that doesn't happen, so it doesn't conflict with the Easter egg hunt, but that's all I got.
Any other questions for the town manager? Thank you, Fred. Upcoming appointments. Where's Ralph been?
Who?
Ralph Parenti.
Died.
When?
Hey, long time ago.
I didn't know that. You just hit me
They
with
put him
something.
in a home. They put him in a home, and
Well, I just was bringing up the upcoming appointments because I know last year, God rest his soul, but he was here asking, when are we going to get this list down to almost nothing? Well, it's down to 3. So, Recreation Committee, member, Ward 3. Planning Board, alternate member, 5-year term. Technology Committee, Ward 2 to expire 12/31/18. Ward 3, 12/31/18. And Ward 5, 12/31/18. Public comment. Anything from the council?
Just want to
Okay.
say, the egg hunt, it's turned out to be pretty big. I just secured the Balloonatic, who does for the extravaganza, who does balloon animals. So along with the face painter, the character artist, we have a Balloonatic. We've secured sponsorships, Angela and I, about $1,000 between monetary donations and eggs. So flyers have been copied. They're on their way to the schools. It's all over Facebook. So remember the date, April 15, rain or shine. It's a 9 a.m. start. That's 9 a.m. sharp. So.
Just to clarify, because people ask me, like, at 9 o'clock is when, like, the hunt starts, or people
no,
should
we
get
want
there?
we want people there. We're going to tell them 9 o'clock.
All right, no, that's what I'm making
They
sure.
won't be there till 10. You
I
know
understand.
what
I
I mean?
understand. So
The egg hunt.
people get there at 9. I
It's at
understand.
7, they go at 9.
And Bert's
egg-
going to be the Easter Bunny.
The egg hunt will begin at 9 o'clock. It's not an event where you show up at 9.
Right.
And then you do your part in the egg hunt, and then you show up at 10 o'clock, and then you can still do it. No. There's going to be a lot going on. We've contacted a lot of resource groups. Right now, I
We're
believe
getting contacted by a lot. They're coming to us. They're
Yeah.
calling us. That's how the word got
about
out.
25 of them
Right.
now, between places like the PRA, WIC, some local youth sports leagues, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. So those type of organizations, and basically it's to see what can we do in West Warwick. And a lot of people maybe not familiar with how old I have to be to join Boy Scouts, or when does the summer camp program begin. This is going to be the stage for these people to showcase what we can do.
Thank you, Jay.
And his kids are stuffing thousands of eggs.
Yeah.
My daughter just stuffed 1,000 eggs over the weekend.
They came, they donated, and
Oh, you
Jason
told me.
calls me up. He goes, Angelo, I told him what to do. I told him what to get, and we're thankful they donated.
Yes.
But the eggs came empty instead of full.
and then the candy they sent us don't fit in the egg.
Well, when they give you a wallet, they usually
So-
have the money in it, you know?
Right.
But-
Yeah.
But it's been fun.
Yeah, so my daughter says.
But Jason's
she said,
taking
"Wow,
the brunt
Dad,
of it
she says, we have to stuff 2,000 eggs. You have to stuff 2,000 eggs."
Yeah,
I
she
said,
said,
"No."
drop the other 1,000 off
No.
to Angela. I said, the way I look, I'll eat 500 of them.
So she stuffed 1,000 eggs. So thank you, Olivia.
John's house.
Just to go over something real quick. Friday, is it Friday? Friday, the
7th.
the circus will be here in town.
Yes, that's Friday.
If anybody has heard 95.1, they've been advertising it. But I also had an interview with John Parenti on 95.1 concerning the event. As I respect PETA and their organization, to send town employees and other members of the council or whatever nasty emails telling us that we have a place in hell, we're gonna die and go to hell, and whatever it may be, at that point, there's only so much I can tolerate. And as much as I care for animals myself, I have a dog, I've had other animals, I've had rabbits. There's only so much that I'll listen to, and I'll not tolerate anybody threatening a town employee, especially when they're trying to do their job and do the right thing for the community and bring family events. So if any of you get any complaints or concerns about my interview with 95.1 or anything like that, please feel free to direct them towards me. And I'm not saying everybody in that organization is like that. Individuals have their own beliefs, but to do that and make town employees very upset and have to worry about their job or whatever, and worry about people threatening them on Friday, it's just not good for the town. And if they have their beliefs and they don't want certain things, that's fine, but be courteous. I mean, I don't wish ill on anybody. I don't wish ill on
And
anybody.
just to say what David's
Friday?
saying,
Yeah, we do.
we don't knock anybody for having their own beliefs. Don't knock us for having our beliefs. Everybody's entitled to their opinion and their facts, what they think are facts. So just because you don't like it, I might like it. And it's nothing to do with cruelty to animals or anything like that. It's just, that's my feeling.
Well,
Everybody
if it's
has a say.
If it's a peaceful, whatever they want to do, that's one thing, but threatening employees, it's crossing a line.
Yes, and again, Peter, individuals, I mean, they flooded our email server the other night with 950 emails in one night to one individual.
Really?
And it was the same header. It was the same header, and, the threats weren't from that email, but they just flooded us and flooded that individual's email box with a ton of emails. And that's just, so be it.
1,600 at last count, I think.
1,600 emails, and it's a big organization. I mean, it's nationwide. It is what it is. I'm not looking to challenge them or
no, but
argue with
obviously
them.
they do that for a reason, so that way next time the circus comes up, you go, we don't have to deal with that, and you tell them no, and that's why they do it.
And
They
I'm
have
going
a-
to tell you right now, if the circus is a huge event and if it works out,
Do it again.
I think it should happen every single time, as long as there's no cruelty to animals and things are going the way it should be. They pulled all their proper permits. They've done everything they were supposed to do. I'm going to try to be in attendance just to check it out.
They sent out I know my son got one of the tickets they sent
That's
out to
the
all
other thing.
schools.
They gave every student in West Warwick a free ticket as long as a paying adult is present. They're trying to make this a big community event. And again, hopefully it's a success, and hopefully we don't have too many issues up there. And so if you can, get your friends and family out there Friday night and see how it goes.
Will they bring the elephants?
The elephants are going to be there.
And Freddie, you got to be a certain height to get in.
Oh, you can ride the rides. You have to
Yeah,
be there.
you got to be a certain height.
All right. Any other public comment? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. J. Messier, don't go far.
Well, what?
I have a constituent.
What did you do? It says the lunatic coming to the
Listen, this was
hospital.
addressed. This was addressed.
I have to walk out.
Do you want a copy? It's about domestic violence.
Which girl? This is my girl, I guess. Yeah,
I can't put this on the
It
agenda.
was your girl reached out to me. I can find out.
Because if somebody was claiming their husband was domestic violence and they want us to put laws forward, we can't. It's for state.
If you end up doing the West Greenwich stuff.
But I want to give it to Jay. It's his constituent. Let him deal with it.